Are you rushing or are you dragging? A fundamental question from the movie Whiplash, where an instructor is kind of abusing almost this drummer to get him to play just right. But this question is on my mind. For if you're on island time, you're most definitely going to be dragging. If you exist in the Western world in any capacity, there's no doubt in my mind that you're probably rushing. Always rushing to do something. What are you gonna do next? You finish something. What's the next thing? People are always, hey, what do you wanna do? Let's go do something. Do. Or when you're going to the next event, you can't be caught meandering to the event. You gotta get there. You gotta go. You gotta rush to work. You gotta rush home from work to go to the next event, which is kick your legs up and watch Instagram Reels or YouTube. You know, like there's always this component of rushing. I think it's just like the fundamental principle of the Western society, if you will. But I don't think it has to be the case. Because rushing does not necessarily serve your life. When you rush, you're constantly bombarded with you're not even living at that point. Because you're just going from point A to point B to point C to point D to point E to point F to point G to point H. You're just living for the completion of the next task. But what about all the time spent in between the tasks? That is not something that we tend to appreciate. We want to rush through it, get it done, so we can go to the next task. The reason why I bring this up is because, this past year and a half, I decided to just start walking. That's it. I would walk to work. I would walk home from work. I'd walk to school, walk home from school. I could have the option of taking the metro. Maybe I could have bought a car. Maybe I could have bused. Maybe I could have done all these things. I could have biked. I have. But I decided to walk. The reason why I decided to walk is because I wanted to try to just slow things down, to just flow, to appreciate the in-between moments, because otherwise I'm just rushing to the next big thing. I'm completely overlooking the transition in between. When I started doing this, when I started walking to my work, it let me just pause. It let me think. Let me reflect. It let my head get ready before I head into work. It let my brain decompress after work, instead of rushing just to the next thing after work. Because naturally, when you're so highly spun up from the workday, you want to pursue other activities that are also highly spun up, such dopamine activities. So I look at it this way: when you are so spun up from work, when you go home, you want to keep rushing. You want to go to the next thing. And so naturally you find another activity that occupies the mind, that spins you up, which is often Instagram, it's often YouTube, it's often these social media, these high dopamine activities that don't necessarily take any energy. But what I found is when I started walking, the transition point between my workplace and being high spun up and to when I got home, it spaced it out. It let me pause and ponder about what it is that I kind of want to actually do in my life. Because to be honest, I didn't want to actually just only exist for YouTube or Instagram. I didn't want to have all my time spent so I'm living for the rush for when work is over so I could just go DJing. I didn't actually want that. Deep down, I wanted this deeper life. I wanted this life where I would read my books, I would create my poetry, I would write, I would make maybe some fun videos. I will start to broaden my horizons on what it is that's even possible for me. That's the life I wanted. And yeah, it takes energy, but when you walk, you get a reset. It resets the brain. It gets blood flowing again. Often we are so lethargic because we just sat the whole day, not because you're actually tired. It's because the body is just, well, you taught it that it doesn't need to move, so it's not gonna move. It's not gonna have energy to move. So by the end of the day, if you're able to walk, you're able to then kind of reclaim some energy again for your evening. So you can pursue some of these creative activities that you want. So you can lean into and evolve kind of your sphere of what's possible. Because the after work hours are truly precious. That is your free time. So walking is this like cognitive reset. Walking gives this type of energy to do more, or not even do more, to let you choose what it is that you want to do. That's a better way to frame it. Because when the technology is choosing us, that is not really us living. But if you are choosing to do something, that is more living. And often, on the walks, it lets you think, pause and ponder what it is that you actually want to choose to do. But, this is a big but. Huge but. Massive but. Ginormous but. I'll get on with it. The walking, I believe, only serves the purpose. I made a short about this today. If you take out your earbuds, if you stop listening to music, if you stop listening to a podcast, if you stop listening to the news, if you stop just whatever, and just listen to your thoughts. Because when you transition from work to then into the commute home, and you're in this rush, you are rushing to go watch some YouTube, you're rushing home to go watch some entertainment. That is what you're living for, and you can't wait. So what do? You need to put some stimulus in your ears. You need to keep the media coming so that you can be entertained instantly. But if you do that, you are not actually transitioning into the spin down. Like, think of it like work makes you spin at this RPM. And when you put the earbuds in and you start listening to entertainment again, you're just keeping up at this RPM. You're keeping up in this fast-paced rush life. You're not slowing down anytime soon. So then when you get home, you're going to go find another activity that's at that same RPM, which is like watching movies, which is watching Netflix, which is watching Instagram Reels, which is watching YouTube, instead of just podcast. But if you're able to disconnect for a sec and reconnect during a walk with yourself, with your thoughts, with the world around you, it can offer you an opportunity to, is spinning this fast, to spin it much slower and let you just breathe. Let you think again. Let it so that when you come back home, you can then choose an activity that matches the slower cadence. Not this fast-paced dopamine gratification loop, but maybe a slower creative work like reading or writing or journaling, or name something you want to paint. For me, I really like writing, just journaling my thoughts. And if I lived in this very fast-paced world, like the slow activities cannot interface with it properly. You need to ramp yourself down in order to connect with these slower paced technologies. It's not that you don't want to do them. I'm sure that you do. I'm sure that you know that reading a book that is interesting to you is super important. I'm sure you're well aware that working on some fun creative endeavor like learning how to play the piano or something is such important as well. But it's just a matter of ramping down the brain to a point where you don't have to rush anymore. Because these types of activities, you can't rush them. You can't rush success. You cannot rush growth. You cannot rush learning. You cannot rush these things. But it's as if we are convinced that we need to do things so fast, get to the shortcuts so quickly, that we don't have time to just sit down with ourselves. We need to be stimulated. We need entertainment. And if we don't get it, it feels like, I don't know, we're wasting our time or something. You're not wasting your time when you're going for walks. You're not wasting your time when you just sit on a bench and enjoying. That's a good life. That's a life where you're appreciating. The moments of constant doing does not actually make a good life. It feels that it might, because that is what we're taught. We go back to the question, are we rushing or are we dragging? And our society is most definitely rushing. So I would encourage you to ponder this. Think about whether you are rushing in your own life. How are you rushing? Do you want instant gratification? Do you want to be home instantaneously after the day is done? Do you need to run around in the morning to get ready? Or are you leaving yourself enough time to naturally flow in between the rush and the dragging world and playing the music on tempo? And of course, there's these moments of dragging. Of course, there's these moments of rushing. But if you're never balancing out the rush with the drag, your life will just flash before your eyes and be over. Because the last question I'm going to leave you with is this. What are you rushing to? Because if you ask me, the only certainty that we have is that we're going to die. So when you rush in life, the only thing I can say for certain that you're rushing to is death. Why do you want to live that way? Why do you want to rush? Why can't we just take a breath and relax for a bit? I'm Matthew. Today is unreasonably humid. I'm like sweating out of every single orifice. And I wish you a great day. Peace and love.